Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 143rd episode of the Simple Sophisticate. I hope your week is off to a great start. We are beginning our week here in Bend with a little bit of beautiful snow and a 3-day weekend, so that's always a wonderful way to start a week. And now I'm here with you, whenever you're listening to me, about self-awareness. We're going to examine what exactly is self-awareness today, what it is not, how to attain it, and the benefits of mastering this skill. Before I get into today's episode, today's Petit Plaisir is a fantastic book about simplicity. And it is rich and has a wealth of ideas and thoughts about, or I should say, worth contemplating as we consider improving the quality of our everyday life. So it, in large part, aligns beautifully with the Simply Luxurious Life as well. So I'm excited to share with you what this book is all about. So stay tuned at the end of today's episode. But now to today's topic, self-awareness. I want to begin with a quote from Deepak Chopra. And he states, "People need to know that they have all the tools within themselves. Self-awareness, which means awareness of their body, awareness of their mental space, awareness of their relationships, not only with each other, but with life and the ecosystem. Feeling happy is one thing. Knowing why you feel happy is another. In fact, understanding precisely why and what caused you to reach a state of happiness is the sign of a person who is self-aware. And when we become self-aware, we become better able to cultivate more of what enlivens us and eliminate or effectively navigate what does not." Let me share an example of both. So, from my own experience, during what they're calling the Snowmagedeon of 2017, this past January here in Bend, Oregon, tending to the removal of snow on our roofs, whether you were a homeowner or a rental tenant, became a regular activity for a couple of weeks. It was not rare to see more than a few people on their roofs at a time as you drove throughout your neighborhood. However, I was only able to eliminate the edges of my home from snow, which kept me in a more than regular state of uncertainty. It not only affected my sleep, but my days as well, as I was regularly gazing at my ceiling, something I hadn't done in earnest to note changes until now, so it wasn't really of much help. I felt anxiety because I didn't know. I didn't know the house because I'm a renter, and I felt I didn't have control. And so with regards to the idea of self-awareness, I was able to identify what I felt, and I was able to identify why. In some aspects of that, I was able to solve some of it, but some I wasn't. But the key part is just being aware and understanding why you're feeling what you're feeling, not just letting those emotions run rampant. On the flip side, I recently spent the holidays at the Oregon coast, and it was the not owning and not having to tend to the cabin that I had rented that provided much relaxation, peace, and comfort. The lack of have-tos, should-dos, and must-dos allowed my mind to relax and my body to find calm. So in this instance, I knew how I felt. I was at peace. I was able to breathe and really not have any stress whatsoever. And in large part, it had to do with the lack of responsibilities. So just knowing what we need sometimes is crucial. And that's another part of the self-awareness we're going to talk about, finding the balance in our lives. So knowing why you're feeling the way you are in any given situation requires each of us to pay attention. While we are most certainly aware and probably by default pay attention to all the external events in our lives, sometimes we neglect to observe ourselves. And not only observe, but then inquire as to why we see, why we feel what we feel. To be more precise, having self-awareness is, by definition, being able to observe ourselves, accept and recognize what we discover, and be honest about how we feel, why we act certain ways in particular situations, and the change that we may need to take if it's not working for us. It is being able to pay attention and be honest about our strengths, weaknesses, thoughts, beliefs, motivations, and emotions. When we choose this approach, we choose to welcome a life of quality, a life of fulfillment, and a life of contentment. Earlier this year, emotional intelligence was discussed in depth in an earlier episode, episode 140. And one of the 4 components of cultivating EQ, or emotional intelligence, was having self-awareness. But what exactly is self-awareness? I know I just gave you the definition of it. And while it may sound simple, be aware of yourself, know why you're feeling what you're feeling, upon closer examination, it is a skill that will take our undivided attention, time, and then patience as we put what we learn into practice. But I think it's always interesting to look at the flip side and see what something is not. And so I'd like to share with you 4 things that self-awareness does not look like. Being passive-aggressive, someone who does not communicate their feelings, who is reserved and bottled up and does not communicate openly with those they're in relationships with, thinking that their actions will speak for themselves. Someone who is being controlling is not self-aware. They're not aware of how they're affecting those around them by having to be in control, by not taking into consideration what the other people want, by not being willing to compromise. The third thing is that they are defensive. Instead of being proactive, they react. And the last one is unconscious behavior changes. So you're not even aware when you have a behavior change due to a different feeling that you're feeling. That is being unconscious of a change that is occurring, but others can observe it without question. In other words, not being self-aware involves not noticing how our behavior adversely affects those around us, how our unhelpful behavior sabotages the relationships we are trying to build. The benefits of being self-aware are plentiful, though, and hopefully that'll be the carrot or the motivation to consider implementing this skill in your everyday life. Now, the benefits that we're going to talk about overlap in many ways the benefits we've talked about with a lot of different tools. And I share a list of those tools in 3 different posts and podcast episodes on today's show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 143. And there's a long list of them. But just to give you a taste, a few weeks ago, we talked about how to create a to-be list. And what do we mean by to-be list is to build all these different tools within us, and this idea of knowing how to be self-actualized, how to be confident, how to be brave, how to be disciplined, how to be self-reliant. The list is long. There's 20 of them. Actually, there's 22 of them. And I provide a link to that episode or podcast as well. And I dive deep into all 22 concepts. So if you're interested in other tools, feel free to take a look at them. But today's tool that we're talking about is being self-aware. Now, let's talk about the benefits of being self-aware. First of all, I want to begin with a quote by Marianne Williamson, and she states, "Self-awareness is not self-centeredness, and spirituality is not narcissism. Know thyself is not a narcissistic pursuit." Absolutely not. She's correct. She's absolutely correct about that. It is not a narcissistic pursuit. It is not self-centeredness. This being self-aware is actually going to make you more open, more giving, able to stand in your own being and be clear about who you are, what you can do, what you can't do, where you want to go, and communicate that very fully to those around you. So let's take a look at this list of benefits. Number 1, you become more at peace with yourself. When you take the time to listen to how you are feeling and investigate why you are feeling what you are, you become more in tune with your most authentic self. You begin the journey of searching out what piques your curiosity and thus gravitate toward moments that will cultivate more peace and harmony in your life. Number 2, you become better able to communicate with clarity. By understanding yourself, especially the why of what you're feeling, you can clearly communicate with others your joy, your sadness, your frustrations, your hopes. And when you speak clearly, others who are truly listening will come to know who you are and will either gravitate towards you or recognize, hey, we're not a fit. This isn't going to work. but at least you are authentically you and doing so in a tactful, respectful manner. And they too will appreciate that. So then respect builds as well. Number 3, you have a decision making that has now become more simplified. When you know what you want, it is the most significant part to making the best decision. And when we finally discover what we want, we can say no quickly to the rest. And again, when we know what we need, I think that plays as well into here, because we know what we're feeling, we know why we're feeling it, so we can eliminate or add into our lives what we need. And we're also aware of what brings us joy and pleasure, and we can bring that into our lives. And so those decisions become far easier. Another benefit, number 4, is that we have a clear purpose and direction. While we can always appreciate different paths that others take, when we know the direction we need to take and why we are on it, it is easier to stay focused and not stray. Number 5, you have the opportunity of having an enriched life experience. The crucial crux to reaching self-awareness is understanding the why of your feelings. Magnificent power is given to each of us when we answer with clarity this why question. Upon knowing what enlivens us, what makes us shrink in fear, or what tickles our curiosity, we can then seek out what will enrich us, what will heighten our experience, and thus what will enrich our lives. Number 6, we begin to find true contentment and fulfillment. Living an enriched life is discovering what fulfillment and contentment truly are, being fully present in the moment, in the lives we have created for ourselves, and wanting to be there, and then having the chance to experience this similar moment every day in varying degrees is to attain fulfillment. And we can only do that if we are honest with ourselves about what we feel and why in any given situation. Number 7, our optimism rises. Optimism will rise as we begin to see evidence that applying what we learn about ourselves to life truly does lead us down a path that enlivens our lives. And when we see a fulfilling life is possible, we begin to believe again that life can be a truly amazing gift. Number 8, we have a reduction of guilt and regrets. Due to the ability to make better decisions, the guilt and the regrets are diminished. When we confidently make decisions, being aware of how we feel and how our decision will affect others, we know the outcome by and large before we leap. And once we leap, we accept that not everyone will applaud, but we won't regret it, and we will be able to let go of judgment from others as we own our decision. The last benefit is improved relationships. Self-awareness is a key component of having emotional intelligence, and as was discussed in our 140th episode, developing our EQ improves our relationships because we are cognizant of our actions and how they affect those around us. And we know how to handle ourselves effectively as we can observe accurately what we feel and why. All right, so those are the 9 benefits of having self-awareness. Now you may be wondering, okay, I like it, I'm on board, let's do this. How do I do it? So let's talk about how to develop self-awareness. And I want to begin with a quote by Stephen Covey. He states, every human has 4 endowments: self-awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to change. And on that note, just knowing that we can bring this self-awareness into our lives, no matter where we are in life, no matter what our age, no matter what other skills we have already attained, should be a huge relief and inspiration to get going and include this vital and very powerful skill in our lives. So here are 5 ways we can improve our self-awareness. Accept responsibility of changing responses and behaviors to external stimuli. In other words, be aware of how you respond to certain people, different situations, and life in general. And then do that asking of, okay, what am I feeling? Take that time, step away, maybe even journal about it, work it out that way. And then ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling this way? Once you become aware, that is probably the most powerful part of developing self-awareness. And this is something that will take time because there's all sorts of different situations, there's all sorts of different people. But just recognizing that and being able to answer the why, that will catapult you into seeing the benefits of self-awareness, because then you can start making decisions that enliven you and don't drain you, help you, don't hinder you. All right. And the second one is plays right into the first. Reflect on the outcome in each situation and contemplate your role. Okay, so how did that situation work out? Did I like it? Did I not? And then how did I play a role in that outcome, good or bad? All right. So again, learning from our past experiences. And I do find journaling helps. I love to think about things in my mind, but even though I think I may have figured it out in my head, putting it down on paper makes a lot more sense to me. Everyone does it differently though. Third one is self-care. Take care of your brain. Feed it, nurture it, listen to it. Take care of your mind, be able to master your thoughts, understanding your thoughts, be able to quiet it. Take care of your body, good health, exercise, feed it well, good sleep. And take care of your brand. Become the CEO of your life. And I have an episode for each of these three concepts that dive deep into how to cultivate strong mind, body, and brand. So feel free to visit the show notes to dive into those. The fourth one is to develop high emotional intelligence. And again, as I've been saying throughout this episode, in episode 140, we dove deep into EQ to learn how to build it, what it is, and why it's necessary. And the last one ties into our third one, but it really is about mastering your mind. I mean, we're talking about thoughts and observations after all, so we need to know what our mind is taking in and what we're allowing our mind to think and who's in charge. Are we in charge or is our mind in charge? I know that sounds kind of redundant, but I think you know what I'm getting at, this idea of who's leading whom. All right, so those are the ways you can develop self-awareness. The development of soft skills, personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people, are entirely in each of our control. We can choose to recognize their power and find the patience to cultivate them, as they will take time. Or we can ignore an opportunity to enhance the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. If we seek the development, we are choosing to be more present in ourselves. We are choosing to be active participants and come to a better understanding of our role in the world and how we can best be part of it. At times, the process to become more self-aware may be uncomfortable, understanding why you feel what you're feeling. But the unease and discomfort is actually only temporary, as it is alerting you to something that needs to be tended to before you can move forward. Tend to it and discover an increased quality of life. Now, for today's show notes, you can visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 143. And for all those links to all those different posts and episodes that go deeper into some of the topics we discussed today, they're all going to be there. All right, now stay tuned for this week's Petit Plaisir, a book about simplicity that I have a feeling you will want to get your hands on. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Today's Petit Plaisir is an international bestseller that has sold over 350,000 copies. And it recently was released earlier this year, and it was translated into English just in 2017 from French. And the title is L'Art de la Simplicité, How to Live More with Less by Dominique Leroux. This book is petite, but full of depth. And what I mean by petite is literally the size. It's the size of, say, your Tuesdays with Morrie book or your Marie Kondo book about organization. And it is divided into three parts. First one is materialism and minimalism. Second one is body. And third one is mind. And I want to share with you some excerpts from the mind chapter because I feel it ties in beautifully with what we're talking about today in self-awareness. She talks about our inner ecology and the idea of eliminating or reducing stress and anxiety. The key thing about reducing anxiety is that 90% of it is us worrying about things, as she states, that we never will see come to fruition. That's really good news, I think. And the other part about it is, in order to be calm, by letting go of anxiety, we make it easier to manage, classify, and organize all the information that we have swirling around in our world, in our minds, and then we're able to think more clearly, make better decisions, and have a more quality life Now, when we latch on, as she says, to one idea, we're showing that we have an inflexible mind. And an inflexible mind is not going to allow us to see the bigger picture, to understand that we may have just been digging ourselves in a hole that's unnecessary. And so it is by being anxiety-ridden or allowing our lives to be full of stress that we forget about what we really want and who we really are. And those things are going to be the drivers of our life if we want to live a life of quality. So in order to focus on those two things, we have to let go of the stress and the anxiety. And she shares a few things to de-stress and live a life of less anxiety. And I'll share a few here. And they really have to do with overall health. But then I think you're going to see that a lot of it's just paying attention to what works for you. And again, that comes back to self-awareness. So here we go. Simply eat good, tasting, healthy food. Make time for pampering treatments and pleasurable moments. So finding that balance. Go to bed and get up at the same time. She reminds us that sleep follows a 90-minute cycle. And if you miss the onset of one cycle, you must wait for the next. Enjoy your food and eat in calm, convivial surroundings. Avoid noisy restaurants, frozen food, industrial ready meals. Eat a full breakfast. Ideally, this will be your main daily meal and comprise hearty, savory dishes. Breakfast is literally, as the name implies, the breaking of a fast. Allow yourself a little fine quality, very dark chocolate each day as a source of magnesium. It will enhance your sleep too. Walk in the countryside or a park. Walking clarifies the thoughts and helps put problems in perspective. Remember to breathe the negative ions beside a stretch of water. A lot of this is really about living consciously, living well, knowing how your body functions, and not letting your mind run you. So much of it aligns with the Simply Luxurious premise, which this is probably why I was drawn to this book. And another part of this chapter I want to share with you is about transcending your problems. She has an interesting take on it that I didn't expect, and I have to say, it's like, really? That's so nice. I like it. I'm going to accept this. So let me share with you her thoughts on negative thinking. Don't tackle or treat your problems. Rise above them. Focusing on a problem keeps it alive and prevents you from moving on. Negative thoughts do not need to be analyzed, dissected, studied. If we do, we spread them. Oh, right. So instead of analyzing the bejesus out of this particular problem, why don't we just let it go? Now that's a different approach. At Simple, it forces us to then focus on what we do want more of in our lives and what is going well in our lives. In other words, she reminds us, whatever we focus on grows in importance. And a last thought on negative thinking. Just a reminder as to how to approach the day instead so that negativity has less room to flood your mind and your life. Concentrate instead on what you can do here and now. Each morning, for example, try asking yourself what sort of day you would like to have. Try to bring to mind everything that is good and pleasant in your life. Before going to sleep, practice reviewing the enjoyable moments of your day, a walk, a good meal, a meeting with a friend. These are treasures. Note them quickly in your diary. Later, they will remind you of the great sum of happiness your life has brought you. And I like her last thought on this. Dreams can begin before going to sleep. That is a beautiful thought. If you can start dreaming and reminding yourself of beautiful memories, you are going to be drifting off with a smile on your face. Now, again, that is just one small component of L'Art de la Simplicité, how to live more with less. There is much more, and I have a feeling you will find great inspiration in it, as I have. And that book, again, is by Dominique Leroux. And I'll provide a link to it on today's show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 143. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast when I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe. Anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, stop by the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up the book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide. To stay caught up on the most recent podcasts, blog posts, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or your morning coffee, just in time to jumpstart the weekend. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!